All right, thank you. We'll call the September 27th meeting of the Washoe County Open Space and Regional Parks Commission to order. Brandon, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes, one moment. Looks like we're having technical difficulties. The system isn't recording correctly. Could we take a short recess while I get this going properly?
Sure.
So we have the camera. The cameras don't seem to be working.
We're in recess.
Okay, thank you.
We don't have Commissioner Garcia?
Recording stopped.
She'll be late. Okay.
Yeah, I fell down and I was trying to get a hold of maintenance. Okay. Yeah, it fell when I was in here. I was sitting there, but it fell.
So for the record, please, anyone, do not stand under that dangling light fixture that's hanging on by a thread for your own safety.
Recording in progress.
Test. All right, recess is over. Continuing with the meeting, Brandon, can you do a roll call of commissioners?
Yes, Michael Angelo Aranda. Here. Timothy Dake.
Present.
Kevin Joel.
Present.
Neil Jones.
Present.
And Lisa, you are on Zoom. Please go ahead and unmute.
Present.
We can hear you. Just go ahead and say present, please.
Present.
Thank you, Lisa. Also, Commissioners Maxwell Dinatali, Miles Gertler, and Mark Newman spoke with me. They will not be able to attend today. They have arrangements they can't get out of. Also, our County Commission liaison, Marie-Louise Garcia, will be here, but she will be a little late.
All right, thank you, Brandon. Commissioner Jones, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
One moment. We do have a quorum.
Oh, and you do have a quorum.
Yes.
Thank you for confirming that.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Brandon, do we have any public comment online?
Well, I need to read the Zoom disclosure first.
Oh, okay, thank
And
you.
then we could go to public comment. So members of the public may submit public comment by attending the meeting via teleconference by logging into the Zoom webinar and utilizing the raise hand feature during any public comment period. To provide public comment via telephone, press *9 to raise hand and *6 to mute or unmute. Additionally, members of the public may submit written comments via email to Brandon Roman at broman@washoecounty.gov. The county will make reasonable efforts to send in all emails, comments received by 4 p.m. on the day prior to the meeting to the commissioners prior to the meeting.
Thank you. And do we have any public comments?
I have no public comment in chambers, no public comment on Zoom.
All righty, thank you. Approval of the agenda from the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting of today, September 27th. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And do we have any public comment on that motion? Hearing none.
No public comment on Zoom or chambers.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, we have approval of the draft minutes for the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting of July 26, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Make a correction, small correction, item 7. Probably just a typo, recognizing Colleen Wallace Barnum for 2 years of service. Should be 25 years. I think it's stated a little later on in your congratulations. But, with that correction, I make a motion to approve these minutes.
I have a small correction too. Mine's a little bit more selfish, but the spelling of my name in item 1 just needs a small correction.
On the minutes?
Correct.
So item 7 should be 25 years? And what was the other correction?
Item 1, the spelling of my name.
Okay, let me see. Should be AE.
AE, and then only 1 R and Aranda.
Okay, I got the corrections.
With that, I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there any public comment on this motion? Hearing
There's no public comment.
Hearing none, if you approve the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, presentation and discussion by Assistant County Manager Kate Thomas on the Truckee Meadows Public Lands Management Act.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. I am Kate Thomas, Assistant County Manager, and I'm here to give you an overview of the Truckee Meadow Public Lands Management Act. You've probably heard of it referred as the Lands Bill, and so you'll hear that statement every once in a while, but we're here to talk about the Lands Bill, and I wanted to make a first opening statement that this is not a Washoe County piece of legislation. Everybody calls it the county's Lands Bill, but in fact, this is an item that is being brought forward by Senator Rosen's office, and the Nevada congressional delegation has been part of the process as well, and it's to provide for economic development and conservation in northern Nevada and for other purposes. So as the county, part of our role is the stewards of information. Obviously, all of these lands transactions occur in Washoe County, so we're here to give you some information, but just know that comments today I will bring back to the Senator's office, or questions, I'll do my best to answer the ones that I can, but we'll walk you through a general overview of what this legislation is intended to do and where you can find information on it. So a lands bill is designed to help take federal lands within an area, especially out west. Fun fact, Nevada is the #1 state in the west, in the country, that has public lands. We are the state with the largest holding of public lands in the West. So that's puts us in a unique position to decide what to do and take a look comprehensively at some of these federally owned parcels in Washoe County. And we do this every once in a while. There's a resource management plan for Washoe County that we have out of the Bureau of Land Management. The BLM's plan is about 20 years old, so the time is appropriate to be looking at, as we grow as a region, what do we do with some of these lands that are adjacent to the urban area, lands that are needed by local jurisdictions, or lands that might be strategic to put up for disposal. So promoting sustainable growth and economic development is a factor in this, as well as preserving public lands. We have a large number of lands in the northern part of the county. As you know, we're a 6,600 square mile county that goes up to the Oregon border. We're massive, and we have acres, I should say, not miles. But we have lots of areas that need to be designated because they are sitting as wilderness study areas currently that the BLM has been managing, and they haven't been designated as permanently wilderness or other conservation areas that can be used. So we really should sort out what those look like. The time is ripe to do that as well. And then through this legislation, we see some support of local tribal communities and lands that are held in trust for the local tribes, and it also establishes some cultural heritage areas as well as sets aside, like I mentioned, lands for public use and public purpose. So there's really 4 main categories or buckets, I like to call them, that these lands will fall into as we looked regionally with multiple partners through the Senator's office at where should some of these lands go? What's the most strategic or best use for these lands? And the 4 categories are conveyance. I'll start with the conveyance to local government because it's the smallest category. We have 9 entities that were involved in putting together their needs for these public lands. They range from Washoe County here, which you are probably particularly interested in, where we have open space trails. And then in the south, we've got some land that'll be coordinated with some state partners to hopefully put together a public shooting facility. Then you see some of our other regional partners, including the university, the school district, the flood authority, Department of Wildlife at the state. Those are some of it gives you an idea of some of the areas that were considered to designate to local government that were formerly public lands. In a lot of cases, these lands will remain publicly accessible, so we don't consider them real disposal area, but they do fall in that category. Tribal trust lands and cultural heritage areas, about 26,000 acres, and that will be, and those lands and all of these you'll see, I should back up and say, we've got a website that shows specifically which parcels, and the language of the bill outlines where these parcels will go, how many acres to what jurisdiction and so forth. But I'll get to that at the very end where you can see those resources. But again, this is just a general overview. So the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, and Washoe tribes had a part in this process, and so some of those lands will go for their use. I mentioned disposal. The disposal for economic development are the lands that you really hear the most about. These are the ones that are set aside and going to be taken out of the public trust, but for specific and strategic use for things like affordable housing or other things that private entities might be interested in using them for. They're usually adjacent to urban areas. They're not specifically ideal for continuing to be serving as public lands. Maybe there's some fire suppression maintenance consideration that are being considered, but the process for disposal of these lands is pretty rigorous. It starts with the county has to nominate them for disposal. So it comes before the Board of County Commissioners. There's a pretty intensive process there. It has to comply with all of the zoning and planning requirements. So we had heard years ago at one of the presentations that people were concerned about condos on the Oregon border, not likely falling within our sphere of influence or infrastructure capabilities, I should say. So, those things, just understand that they need to go through that process as well as a rigorous environmental review. And so standard with most development, these things will have to likely come before a board, especially if they're seeking additional uses. But once they go through all of those processes and they do get put out to for sale, they can't be sold for less than market value. They have to, like I said, go through that really rigorous public process. And then the funds that are derived from that, interestingly, go into are split between 3 different areas, and those are listed here. We've got a State of Nevada General Education Fund, the Truckee River Conservation Project Fund, which everybody's interested in, and then the majority of the funds go to the Secretary of the Treasury. And it's important to note that though it goes to that federal location, a lot of those monies come back to Nevada, and specifically we've seen even through the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act, or SNPMA, we've seen some of those land sale proceeds that have gone into the Secretary of Treasury account come back to service us here at the lake in Washoe County for specific uses. So those monies come back and actually help us with open space preservation. For example, the sale of land in Southern Nevada came back and was able to secure Incline Lake for this region. So you'll see those monies coming back to Nevada and serving in a really purposeful purpose. So Those are economic development disposal pieces, and then conservation is the biggest category that this particular piece of legislation addresses. There are over 715,000 acres that are being considered, and I'll show you a little bit more about that, where we'll consider wilderness areas, national conservation areas, or special management areas, and those are around the wilderness study areas that were designated in northern Washoe County. So here's a map of those. It's a really large scale map, as you can tell, of northern Washoe County, and you can see some of the set-asides. The National Conservation Area are the yellow, so you can see that's the primary designation that you're seeing on here. Wilderness areas are the green on the map. You can see some things up adjacent to Sheldon. You can, if you know northern Washoe County, you kind of have a good idea of where these areas are. But I think it's important to note that, and there was a lot of concern around grazing and recreation and access to these lands, as people have been enjoying access to these lands as it currently stands. Now, whether the access was appropriate or not is part of the reason that we're looking to designate whether these are going to continue to be publicly held at wilderness standards, or do they go a little less restrictive as natural conservation areas. So sorting out what those lands look like is what occurs through this bills. And I mentioned wilderness study areas. That was those areas that were set aside years ago so that we could check out the wilderness character. They were supposed to be protected until Congress decides what to do with them. Well, this is the time where we say, okay, those wilderness study areas don't exist anymore, and then those lands fall into one of those 4 designations. Then moving to southern and the more urban area, those are the disposal areas that I mentioned. We talked about conveyance to local government and what the local governments will use those for. Economic development we talked about as well. That's the 14,000 acres, and you can kind of see that depicted here on this map. And again, these resources can be found online. We've got a really comprehensive website along with the draft bill language, which is interesting to read and then compare to the maps. But you can see the map broken out, and you can zoom in on this when you get to our website. It's really helpful because some of these parcels are pretty tiny on this big map, but it's helpful to see based on the key what these are supposed to be used for. And you can see kind of the tribal trust lands standing out there in the orange. So that is kind of a general overview of what this legislation is aiming to achieve. The process is such that the Senator's office had released a draft bill text or a packet of the bill language, and then there were maps that accompanied those. You saw a couple of snapshots of those. That was released in early April of this year. It was open for about 2 months for public comment. You probably saw some articles in the RGJ and online. You might have heard some folks soliciting input for that. That was what that draft bill review period, comment period was. After that, the city of Sparks came forward and their city council passed a legislation, or a resolution rather, of support for the general concept of what is trying to be achieved here. That was in July. Washoe County just had a similar action on September 19th. And then following that, what's coming are updated maps that follow that comment period that the Senator's office had open. And you'll see a few tweaks, nothing major, but you'll see some, and we've listed here some of the adjustments that you'll see, including the Para Cultural Heritage Area. They're going to adjust some boundaries there. And you'll see some of the parcels that were of concern to local residents that were listed for disposal. We anticipate a couple of those will be taken out of the bill. We haven't seen that yet, but those are the things that you'll see next. And then the bill is set to be introduced by Senator Rosen and the Nevada delegation in the fall. So anytime now, we're looking at that coming forward. The first thing that'll happen, though, is that once we get that draft language and new maps, we'll be uploading that to our landsbill.org website. So when the county went through this process a couple of years ago, we secured the domain landsbill.org to make it easy for everybody to access the information about the process and the bill and the language and the maps, provide input. And through that, we have a subscription area where you can go on there and scroll down and put in your email address so that when those new pieces of information come out, we'll push that to you so that you can be sure not to miss the new versions of the bill. It's got, like I said, the maps. It's got contact information for the Senator's office. I've also put their email address up here if there are comments that this body wants to make. The comment period's over, but we're still kind of working with the Senator's office to fine-tune this. So I hope that wasn't too rapid fire for you all, but I'm happy to answer any questions that I might be able to answer, and then pass along any concerns that you might have or questions to the Senator's office as well.
Well, thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments?
One question on the category of conservation designation. Will the Bureau of Land Management continue to administer that? Who looks after that? It'll stay
Yeah,
with them?
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully
So
with
is there any
those-
real change there with that land?
Well, one of the things we were hoping to achieve is once you have these really, less than a study area, you have a designation of wilderness, and the BLM has a better ability, we've been told, to program staff into those areas, to really uphold that wilderness as it is. You'll probably see some advertising for dark skies, things like that. So it might get some more attention rather than just being sort of a study area. So yeah, that's conversations at the federal level that will be happening with BLM about adequate staffing to preserve those resources.
For the acreage that's up for the acreage that's up for disposal, you talk about the rigorous process that's going to go into nominating it, but for the process of disposing or selling it, is there going to be a really specific plan on who it could be sold to? I know that they'll be planning or they have to meet certain zoning, but is it going to be sold to private companies, to land developers, or how is it going to be decided on?
So it's an auction process, is my understanding. So the federal entity comes in and puts it up for auction. Again, not less than fair market value. It has to meet all of those criteria, but it's open to whomever wants to compete to bid on those parcels.
Thank you.
Well, I've been following the lands bill since 1.0, back in
Changed a lot.
2017-ish, 18-ish.
Yeah.
Very carefully. And I just want to commend Senator Rosen's office. They've done a fantastic job with this last version of kind of listening to concerns and finding compromises between groups that had conflicting desires. And so I think that this overall, is a good thing. Do you happen to know when the updated maps and draft bill will be out? Because I did provide a lot of comments on the original one in June related to trails and trail access and future connections and stuff. Making sure that, there was some properties that were going from entities, that allowed public access to entities that generally have not, which is a concern for, trail connectivity. And I don't know if those have been addressed or if they will be or what came of that. So I was just curious what the timeline will be between when that's released and the bill is actually introduced.
Great question. We've not seen those next iterations of the maps or the language either. And so that's why we're encouraging folks to go to the landsbill.org, and I'm sure you are already signed up to receive push updates. We are told any day now. So in the next week or two, we'll see. We're hoping. I'll touch base with their office. I plan on doing that after this meeting to see if there are any concerns I needed to pass along. But like I said, we're hoping to see those soon because the draft the legislation is set to be introduced here anytime.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I see since it sounds like some of the jurisdictions, including Washoe County, have already written a letter of support. Is that adjusted then based on the final maps? Or is there, does Washoe County have any additional pull to request a change to the final bill?
Yeah, so the resolutions that were adopted by the City of Sparks and Washoe County were in support of the general direction that the bill is headed and the language that's in there. I don't anticipate anything that would come forward that would change the direction of the county commission. I won't speak for the City of Sparks, but I can't see anything that would be so majorly changed that it would, if it did, if it was substantive, we'd probably bring that back to the board for reconsideration. But we don't anticipate that happening. So again, I think it's minor tweaks that you're going to see coming forward. If you as a board decide to put in a letter to the senator's office, or you want to continue to either email me and make sure that I get that information to their office or whatnot, that's the pull that we have, is to try to be the facilitators for folks that, want to go through us versus wanting to go directly to the senator's office.
Okay.
So whatever we can do to help with that trail connectivity is a big priority for the commission, I know.
Okay. And I noticed the City of Reno was not listed. Has it just not gone in front of council yet, or did they not do a letter of support?
So I won't speak for the city of Reno, but they are not yet slated to have a resolution on their agenda. I haven't heard recently whether or not they're looking to do that. So right now, we're just pushing forward with the county commission and the city of Sparks, and it's not necessary to pass the bill. I mean, it's
Right.
Senator Rosen's going to pass it or introduce it, I should
Right,
say.
right.
But it is nice to show regional support for something like this. So we're hoping to see that.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Great.
All right, thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Item number 7, acknowledgement and recognition of park operations staff for their outstanding service and contributions to Washoe County.
Good afternoon. Okay, there I am. Commissioners and staff, Colleen Wallace Barnum for the record. These are good days when I get to have lots of our park staff who are out there in the field most of the time in here receiving some certificates for continuous service. So I don't know, we must hire all in bulk because it seems to happen at one time. So let me get started. The first person we're going to recognize, and this is for 5 years of service, is Cody Brown. Cody, can you come on up? Cody is one of our park maintenance workers. He started as a 3/4 time park maintenance worker. He was in the South region in the Truckee River District. He was in the Truckee River District working at Bartley and Hidden Valley and the river parks. And now he is running the river route, and he's a full-time employee. So he went from a 3/4 time to full-time. So you get your 5-year certificate and your 5-year pin. So congratulations, Cody. Okay, next person is Joanne Loudon. Joanne, come on up. Joanne Loudon she was hired 5 years ago. This is 5 years of continuous service with Washoe County. She was hired 5 years ago as the Natural Resource Planner. She is now the Natural Resource Planning Coordinator, which puts her in a supervisory role. Joanne is really adept at securing grants, managing grants, and also the trail program is under Joanne's purview as in natural resource and open space, and we're hoping to just expand that program even more. So congratulations, Joanne. Okay, next award goes to Eduardo Ruiz Aguilar. Come on up, Eduardo. Okay, Eduardo was also hired as a 3/4 time park maintenance worker. He is currently a full-time park maintenance worker. He works out of Rancho San Rafael Park and does a great job over there, keeping that grass green and managing all of those special events that come and go from the park. So congratulations on your 5 years. Okay, my next certificate, this is a 20-year certificate for Andy Brown. Andy, come on up. Okay, Andy started with Washoe County Parks as a seasonal. He worked at Washoe Golf Course when we had county employees working there. And then he was hired on in the maintenance division, worked 10 years in park maintenance, and then transitioned over to the ranger field. And he's been a park ranger and worked at, I think, Bartley Ranch and currently at Galena Creek Park. So thank you so much for your 20 years of service, Andy. Okay, and that is all I have for today for certificates.
All right. Thank you, Colleen. And congratulations to the employees. I've had the pleasure of working with several of you, and you guys are definitely an asset to Washoe County. And it's unfortunate Commissioner Garcia isn't here, but the County Commission should be proud of you, and I know we are. So, item number 8, resolution to thank Jeff Patterson for his 10 years of service and contributions as the Washoe County District Park Manager for the South Region. Is Jeff retiring?
Yes.
Or did retire?
A couple more weeks.
Oh, congratulations. So I will read this resolution of appreciation and recognition of service to Jeff Patterson. Whereas Jeff Patterson served the citizens of Washoe County and the Community Services Department, Regional Parks and Open Space for 10 years. And whereas Jeff worked as a park ranger 2 at Lazy 5 Regional Park, managing the daily activities of all facilities in the Pa-Ra District. And whereas Jeff was promoted to a district manager in the South Region for 7 years, supervising park ranger and recreation staff and overseeing daily operations at Bowers Mansion, Davis Creek, Galena Creek, Bartley Ranch, Hidden Valley, and the Truckee River Regional Parks. Whereas Jeff collaborated with many nonprofits throughout the park system, such as Great Basin Institute, Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful, and Reno Food Systems, that utilize parks to provide vital programs for the community. And whereas Jeff provided operational expertise to park planners and the community members on the updated master plan for Hidden Valley Regional Park and the Carcione Canapa Recreation Plan. And whereas Jeff hired, trained, supervised, and mentored many seasonal and full-time park staff throughout his tenure, leading by example. And whereas Jeff was contributory in the overall health and vigor of Washoe County parks. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission expresses its appreciation to Jeff Patterson for his dedication to Washoe County and its residents, and wishes Jeff all the best in his well-deserved retirement and future endeavors. Adopted this 27th day of September 2023. And I believe we need to...
For the record, Colleen Wallace Barnum, I wanted to point out that several of the staff that Jeff's supervisors are here in support of this recognition, as they will miss him just as much as everybody else. And it's great to see a lot of employees here supporting Jeff. And just all the best to you, Jeff. I hope it goes well in retirement. Do you have anything to say?
Just want to thank my staff. They always made it easy for me. So I'd like to recognize them a lot, for making it easy on me. So thank you.
When I believe we need to vote. We need to vote on this,
Oh, yeah,
correct?
it is a vote.
Need a motion to adopt this resolution for Jeff Patterson?
I'd be honored to move to adopt this resolution for you, sir.
And do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this?
No public comment in chambers or on Zoom.
If we signify your support for the motion by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And do we want to do a picture?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Might even have to get a little closer. That's, I don't know. Maybe Kate's got that fancy camera.
There we go.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, I've got it on Zoom, wide Zoom. So 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And good luck in retirement, Jeff. Enjoy. Item number 9, Park Program of the Month, Washoe County Trails Program, presented by Trails Program Coordinator Christina Thayer. And before you begin, Christina, just for full disclosure, although it was advised it probably wasn't necessary I and my company do trail work and projects for Christina. So just to put that down for the record. It's a very dim red light when it's on.
It's on, you're good.
Am I on? Okay.
You are.
Hi, everyone. Christina Thayer, Washoe County Trails Program Coordinator. Thanks for having me. This is my first time up here, so I look forward to seeing you more in the future. And I'd like to say Kevin does work for me, but also with me, alongside of me quite often. One sec. That's, is this,
I can do it for you tonight.
oh, wait, one sec.
Is it on?
You ran me through this. There's no green light. Oh, now we have it. Huh. Maybe you want to just take us to the next slide? Here we go again. I'm Christina Thayer, obviously. I am the current Trails Program Coordinator, and I'd like to preface that by saying this is a newly created position. Thank you very much. So I was hired in 2022, and whoops, here we go, now we're wrong way. I'm getting the hang of this. Here I am. I'd like to introduce myself as a 18-year-plus trails professional. Pretty much worked all over the western region from Oregon, most recently Truckee, California, Truckee in the Lake Tahoe region, where I was very involved with both public and private trail-related trails development programs, working with municipalities as well as private agencies and organizations. The degree in forestry and natural resource management, as well as a master's in outdoor recreation management. I'm very familiar with the world of trails, and that's everything from paved paths to rock climbing access trails, mountain bike trails, as well as OHV trails. These are just some of the organizations that I'm currently involved with alongside Kevin, the Eastern Sierra Trails Coalition, the Tahoe Fund, Truckee Meadows Trails. A number of these organizations are mostly regional, though there's a variety of trail organizations that are housed under, let's say, the Professional Trail Builders Alliance, where we work collaboratively to discuss issues related to all things trails and land management. This last year, I had the fortune of helping coordinate the International Trails Summit that was hosted in Reno. It was a huge success. I think we had a lot of courses and presentations from all over the country, actually all over the world. We had, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, I think there were 29 to 30 countries represented. Yep, that's the California Trails Conference is coming up in Lake Tahoe, as well as the National Outdoor Recreation Conference, both in Lake Tahoe, on which I am advising. This position was created in, I would say, collaboration or kind of coincided with the development of the Truckee Meadows Trails Initiative, which is a regional trails plan for this being the Truckee Meadows. Washoe County is a major stakeholder in this as one of our largest land holders within the Truckee Meadows region. That plan was developed initially just to really bring together all of the stakeholders, the city of Reno, Sparks, Carson City, Washoe County, as well as nonprofit organizations, federal agencies, to really develop a very comprehensive trail plan that would, some of our major goals are to create a regional trail network that's safe, that can be expanded, that connects our citizens to facilities and amenities that we have within the county, such as our parks, but also to improve access to the public lands that surround new developments as they come throughout the region. So that was, my position was really created to help serve as a representative of Washoe County and help coordinate all of these plans and programs that are coming your way. So what does a trail program coordinator do for Washoe County? Despite what most people think, I don't just go out with a shovel and a pick every day or deal with dog waste and e-bikes. That's a big part of my job, but I'm going to give you a little brief overview of what I actually do. I like to tell people that I'm a blend of, I'm a general contractor, I'm a planner, and a part-time kind of ranger, park ranger. That's a big overview of what I do. I work alongside our park staff and planners to improve and enhance the county's trails and help to develop some trail programs that we're really in the beginning stages of, and so far having quite a bit of success that I'll show you later. We plan for future trailheads, trails, and the connectivity of our trail system as they come, again, like I said, through easements that need to be secured, and I have to work alongside a lot of stakeholders within that Truckee Meadows Trail Plan to make sure that everybody's on the same page about where we think the best access points might be for a safe and sustainable trail. The easements are something that I work alongside our planning department and Joanne Loudon, our natural resources planner. We work as a team and try to navigate those waters as easily as possible. I advise the developers on what their trail planning needs might be. You might know that Washoe County is a huge supporter of trails, and we want to make sure that these new developments are providing trails through the developments. So though I don't actually help them with the planning, I do help them have the vision and understand the resources that they might have available. And then I develop a trail inventory of data collection, and that's for our asset essentials, understanding the budgetary needs that are coming for future planning efforts, as well as really ground truthing and making sure that our mapping for the county and for our Washoe Regional Mapping System is accurate. I work alongside a lot of other stakeholders and planners to make sure that our environmental and cultural considerations are met in the trail planning and park resource planning. We work alongside the tribe, the Washoe tribe, the Paiute tribe, as well as environmental consultants to take care of our environmental and cultural assets. I'm also assisting with the preparation of grant applications and the administration of those funds as they are received. That could be a whole full-time job within the county, but it's a big job, and that's really how we are funding the trails at this point. The Truckee Meadows Trails Collaborative is working towards really developing a robust program of fundraising so that they might be more supportive of projects and programs that Washoe County, as well as the city of Reno, or Sparks want to develop as trails and trail programs continue. Coordinate volunteer stewardship opportunities, and that is most recently, it's really growing. It's growing. That part of our program is advancing more rapidly this summer than last summer as I've gotten into this job. We work alongside Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful, as well as the Biggest Little Trail Stewardship. CR Trail Works comes out and helps us from time to time. And really, when we address these stewardship opportunities, for the most part right now, we're focused on trail maintenance. We have a lot of trail maintenance within the county, and we're getting great work done. Hope to get more done with more volunteer projects. We're planning and designing and developing new trails throughout the entire Truckee Meadows region, and trying to spread that out so that each of our quadrants of the county has access to trails without having to get into their car. That's a major goal for the Truckee Meadows Trail plan, is that folks have trails in their backyard, if possible, or at least paved paths and different types of connections to them. Working to implement a trail maintenance and policy strategies. Right now, we haven't really had a very stable and steady trail maintenance program. We're working to develop that right now, and as I said before, that's a major focus of what I'm working on now, is how do we bring the trails that we have up to a standard that we're all happy with. Large part of my job is addressing the needs of, again, existing trails. That includes trail wayfinding. That basically means how are we going to navigate? How do we get around on our trails? The signage and the maps, the kiosks, and trailhead access. We all go to these trails, but sometimes folks don't realize, where can I get onto this trail where there's a kiosk and information that might tell me about this trail and where it leads. So we're looking at improving that throughout the county. We also are looking at addressing user conflicts on our multi-use share paths, and we have multi-use shared paths throughout the entire county. We have paved paths as well as our dirt, more single track or non-paved surface trails are all multi-use with the exclusion of there's no OHV traffic on our trails. Some of these trails have issues and concerns that we try to address, or I'm working to address, and that's some of the speeds on our shared paths, maybe something like an equestrian and bicycle interface. How do we communicate to trail users how to navigate that when you come across a horse if you're on a bicycle? And trying to really advance that type of culture of understanding the etiquette while we're on the trails. Some of these issues are part of more collaborative efforts that we work with different municipalities or regional trail planners and organizations to address together so that we are all providing a consistent message within the entire region, not just park by park. This picture up here shows in the year 2022, we started looking at the Paths of Incline village up on the lake. This is the lakeshore path, and we installed some neighborhood slow zone signs as well as some templates on the paved paths. It was painted, it says slow zone. You'll see a picture in a minute of that. Just really starting to start universal messaging in areas where we want to mitigate some of our user conflicts. This picture right here shows Whites Creek, which is in, if you're familiar, more the South Reno area down near Galena. These are the types of maintenance issues that come up after heavy rains and big floods, and we rely on the expertise of folks like Mr. Kevin Joel to help us come up with a plan of how we can design and develop a more sustainable trail. This trail in particular was never designed in an appropriate way to mitigate water, so this is right alongside of Whites Creek, and this is the type of damage that we have ahead of us where we need to address the concerns, maybe reroute a trail, try and fix the existing trail, or figure out how we can mitigate deterioration of our trails. But this is a pretty extreme example, but not unique to Whites Creek. We do this maintenance of existing trails with staff when we have them, contractors that we hire, as well as volunteer service days. And again, the goal is really just to ensure that all of our trails have a consistent, safe, sustainable usability for our trail users of all types, equestrian, cyclists, pedestrians, and also that we're trying through messaging and these volunteer efforts, really creating a culture of trail etiquette. And that's something that, again, is a very collaborative effort based on different municipalities and agencies and organizations working together to spread the same message. I thought I'd give you an example of a few of the things that I deal with on a regular basis or that I'm trying to address, again, collaboratively. Part of the collaborative efforts that Washoe County is working with is up in Lake Tahoe, the Tahoe Fund, as well as a Take Care Tahoe program. It's not just regionally to Lake Tahoe and the Truckee area. It's a group of professional trail builders, recreation planners, and lane managers, all trying to address issues that we have throughout the entire county. It's not just up on the lake. We have them down on the Tahoe Pyramid Trail and some of our paved paths throughout town. But I think we all know about e-bikes, unless you've been in a cave. They're everywhere. We know that these are electric bicycles. They're different from a scooter or a motorcycle, and that's right here you can tell that, or you can see that there's 3 separate types of e-bikes, Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. These are found all over on city streets as well as on some of our paved paths. And they're getting more and more difficult to tell apart from what we call an analog bicycle or just a standard bicycle. They can go up to 28 miles per hour, though most of these bicycles are Class 1 and Class 2 are seeing are pedal assisted, and only the Class 2 are advanced with a throttle. If it doesn't have pedals, it's considered a moped, a scooter, or an electric motorcycle. So we work with land managers and municipalities to understand how do we manage something that is more of a speed-related issue than a vehicle or a tool-related issue. We have electric skateboards and one-wheels and electric bicycles, and they're all moving on our paths with our pedestrians, and we're trying to figure out how we can address this. With advancing technology, it's getting more and more difficult to know what's coming next. In a perfect world, we would design our trails less of a straight path and have more of a curvilinear design so that we can mitigate those speeds. And that takes planning, and that's why it's very important to have somebody like a trails professional on your planning team when you're dealing with roads and trail-related issues. A lot of education and pilot programs are underway right now throughout the Truckee Meadows region as well as the Lake Tahoe area. We're looking at the feasibility of code enforcement and really turning to innovative solutions such as removable speed bumps, bollards, installation of pinch points on trails, just to see what works and how we can keep everybody using the trails following that hopeful trail etiquette and culture of shared use paths. Oops, did that turn off? There we go. No. There we go. Just, when we're looking at such issues such as the e-bike, we need to turn to what our codes are within the county. So I have a few slides here that just give you a brief overview of what is under Chapter 95. Right now, our code is that nobody within any of our parks should be going greater than 15 miles per hour. As I showed you in the previous slide, those e-bikes can go 20 to 28 miles per hour. So it's a bit of a gray area on how you would manage those speeds or enforce them. Every bicycle or skateboard doesn't necessarily have a speedometer on it. So sometimes people don't know how fast they're going, and perhaps they have not been informed of what those speed limits are. Here we have I've highlighted the relative portions here, but really all of these codes are asking for folks to comply with our park rules, our park standards, saying, we need to be keeping these speeds appropriate for conditions that we've designed them for. Again, as technologies are advancing, we don't know what's coming next, and it's difficult to design ahead of the technology. But we do know that there's a safe condition for all types of trail users. And again, through design, education, and pilot programs, we can try to mitigate the safety for all park users. Right here it says, it shall be unlawful for any person to ride a bicycle, including electric bikes. And this says, in a manner in which would be unsafe or injurious to riders or other persons. This says where speed limit has been designated and posted, the rider shall not operate a bicycle in excess of that speed. Under this, I think in the previous few slides, it says that we have a 15 mile per hour speed limit. The town of Truckee has recently, as part of this collaborative project and program that we're working on to mitigate electric bicycles on paths, has implemented a 15 mile per hour speed limit on the trails and has that posted. They are working to use that as a pilot program to really study who's listening and who's paying attention, and they've sprayed different types of innovative messaging on the paved paths and are really looking at this with docent research, taking information down to see what is working and what is not working. We plan to expand that program throughout the Lake Tahoe region, throughout a lot of the trails that are connecting and being planned to circumnavigate all of Lake Tahoe. We have some of these same related concerns down here in the Truckee Meadows region on some of our paths. And, again, posting a 15 mile per hour speed limit sign is something that we can look at and consider moving forward with, as well as improving our signage and design. In general, when we look at an issue like this, again, collaboratively, we find that across the board, land and recreation managers are in agreement that education over enforcement is optimal. It creates a culture of positivity, and which is possible. Good trail design might eliminate trail conflict. So moving forward, if we don't have the option to mitigate trails that we already have, from moving forward, a trail planner should be considered in all developments related to pathways and roadways where we anticipate seeing alternative transportation, alternative to cars. Most agree that sign pollution should be avoided. At some point, when you have too many signs out in the world, people stop paying attention. They quit reading them. And with the popularity of this region and the growing size of the Truckee Meadows region, we have folks coming from all over the world to visit and move to this area, and moving towards iconography messaging is optimal so that everyone understands the same message. We also, like I said, we want to create a shared use culture, a trail culture, and that takes creating a stewardship community. And that happens through volunteer programs and nonprofit organizations getting together and spreading the message. We're also encouraging, the manufacturers of products to get more involved in the messaging. This is on the left, the photos that you see here, the Be Trail Kind. There's a newly formed organization called Trails Are Common Ground, and their entire focus is on trail etiquette and really trying to get the message out there. If you've ever heard of the Leave No Trace campaign, Leave No Trace was a campaign that started, and now you see it on mugs and you see it at outdoor retailers and postings, and it really left that message of, hey, don't leave your trash behind and watch where you're walking. And just the Trails Are Common Ground is a campaign very similar to Leave No Trace, completely focused on how we can all get along out on the trails. And this is a fairly new campaign, but very robust and coming to regions such as the Truckee Meadows quickly. And we're trying to follow along with their program. The slow zone sign, these are some of the templates that we painted on the roadways up in Incline. Another feeling is that code enforcement and improved road bike lanes are definitely desirable management options. They're very costly. So if we can focus on mitigating the shared use trails and pathways that we have, we want to push in that direction. Like I said earlier, we have volunteer service days. Right now, they've been happening monthly. We skipped July due to the heat, July and August. These service days occur with some of our local organizations. Truckee Meadows Trails, again, the United States Forest Service, Biggest Little Trail Stewardship, and Sierra Trail Works has been involved with helping us plan the vision of where we want to go with some of our maintenance needs. Last weekend, we had a great day up in Evans Canyon. We expected 17 individuals and we had 37. So the word is getting out and we're getting a lot of great work done. Washoe County has a volunteer coordinator, and she also helps us arrange groups, more corporate related groups like Tesla, Patagonia, and University of Reno, Nevada. I thought I'd give you a little example of one of our overarching programs here, or projects. Again, this is the Whites Creek Trail where you saw the damage earlier. The green areas are Washoe County owned. The areas to the left, the darker areas, are Forest Service land. And like many of our trails, they cross multiple jurisdictions in different areas where we may not actually own the entire trail system. So addressing those needs, again, is another collaborative project. This area, the Whites Creek area, in order to mitigate the issues that you saw in the earlier slide of those, in the photo with the damaged trail, we need to apply for grants. And I work alongside Joanne Loudon to apply for funding so that we can mitigate the issues of the creek that you saw in the photo, put in some proper bridge structures, as well as restore some areas that have been damaged and maybe reroute the trail to an area that's more sustainable. Incidentally, I don't know if this will work, but this zone right here is part of the lands bill that we talked about earlier. And it's in between two of our parcels. if all goes according to what we'd like, we would attain that property, and then this area would become a managed area for trail systems and have much more connection options. This area, let's see, Timberline Road is right here. And that road takes you into Galena Park, the lower Thomas Creek Trailhead, the lower Whites Creek Trailhead, as well as the Forest Service access to Upper Whites and Thomas. Part of this overarching project would be to not only restore the existing trail, but also, and this is a conceptual kind of preliminary look at a trailhead that we hope to put on an easement that, or the road is an easement, but a parcel of land that the county owns. We developed this new trailhead so that we could mitigate a lot of the parking and congestion issues along Timberline Road, provide trash and restroom services, as well as guide trail users to appropriate trail access points. Right now, some of our trail access points are not sustainable and causing some issues with the local adjacent neighbors. So this is just an example of an area where the trail planner, the park planner, and myself, the trail program coordinator, are working alongside to get a project such as this not only funded, but designed and hopefully constructed. Right now, as far as some of our shared paths, these are our big collaborative projects that we have underway right now. The continuation of the Tahoe Pyramid Trail, trying to connect Lake Tahoe to Pyramid Lake, and working right now with the Tahoe Pyramid Trail organization to connect through Lockwood Canyon out towards Trick to the east. The Tahoe East Shore Trail from Sand Harbor to Spooner Summit. The Historic Virginia Trail from Carson City to Tahoe Pyramid Trail, and the Tahoe Pyramid Trail going along the Truckee River. The Sierra Front Trail from Thomas Creek to Hunter Creek, which is broken up into small segments. The Virginia Range Trail, this is a newly proposed trail from the city of Reno. They're really at the helm of it, and they've handed the reins over to the Truckee Meadows Trails program, housed under Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, but we work alongside them at this moment. It's very preliminary, but we're excited about this. And then the Sun Valley Rim Trail, that would be a trail that kind of circumnavigates North Reno and the Sparks region. So these are just some examples of the collaborative projects that we have underway right now, ongoing. And that's a summation of my world. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Yes. Thank you, Christina. That's very informative and covers lots of areas. Just to clarify that I'm a resident of Incline Village, and I'm familiar with one of your signs, the neighborhood slow zone. And unfortunately, I walk these trails virtually every day. And the conflict, whatever you want to call it, between pedestrians and e-bikes on these pathways is very problematic, and it's getting worse. I've heard some second and third hand stories of people being hit, dogs being hit, et cetera, et cetera. And I have some statistics. In June 1st, 2023, an article in Fortune, we're on the front edge of a new order of danger on both bike paths and roadways. And I agree with that 100%. National Transportation Safety Board, between 2017 and 2021, 53 fatalities on e-bikes. And I can go on, believe me. The issue, and whether or not a trail has a number of sinuosities to attempt to slow these e-bikes down, on the path that I walk, there's blind corners. And talking to people that especially have had surgeries, hip, knee replacements, that are using these trails and they can't get out of the way. And I assure you that I myself have had to jump out of the way of these e-bikes. And whether or not a speed limit is an option, I don't know. But we have got to do something with these pathways. I don't want to restrict it. It's public access. Everybody has a right to use the trail. It's in a public easement. But etiquette and being polite when you're on these e-bikes. And one of the issues with Incline Village is that we have a lot of tourists. Many of these tourists rent e-bikes. And I assume, I don't know, but I assume that these companies that rent these e-bikes have some type of release or contract, something of the sort. But the simple fact is many of these people don't even know how to ride them. They're never pedaling, so they're using the motor completely. So to me, that's a vehicle, and they shouldn't even be on that path. But at least, and I heard you say that the city of Truckee has started a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on their paths. Good for Truckee. I don't know if that is enforceable with local law enforcement, but if we're going to put a speed limit on, it's got to be enforceable. Otherwise, what's the point? But those are some of my comments. Thank you.
Yes, unfortunately, this is an issue that's not unique to Washoe County. This is a global issue, honestly. Every trails conference, every bicycle summit that we attend, this is the topic. This is what we're all trying to address. There's no easy answer right now because, as I said, the general consensus is this is a speed issue. It's not an e-bike issue because there's folks racing analog road bikes down trails and one wheels and motorized skateboards and scooters, those new scooters that you can zip around town on and rent. So again, the speed is the main issue, but those bicycles tend to get the brunt of the complaints. Collectively, I think, again, good trail design from the beginning is something that we can look into, but unfortunately, the cost that we really should be focusing on is also ways to improve our roadways with improved bicycle lanes and ways that you can separate trail users and get some of these folks on bicycles onto paths. As far as I know, we don't really have the room. I'd have to work with the roads department and engineering to improve the situation up an incline with expanded roadways and bicycle lanes, especially with tourists and children and placing kids, sending kids and families and, as you said, tourists who might be renting one of those bicycles and forcing them onto roadways that are already very busy with cars is just something I'm not sure we're able to 100% address in this moment. So the education and the trying to create that culture of shared trail use is something that, again, with the development of trails are common ground and with the preliminary stages of trying to get the manufacturers of these tools more involved with the education and holding them more accountable to including that education in the sale of a bicycle or a one-wheel. As well as, I do know that the folks up in Incline, we're trying to get them as part of the Tahoe Fund and the Take Care Tahoe program to have stickers that would go along the top of the bicycles with, etiquette rules. I mean, again, in order to enforce this is a very big deal. The town of Truckee does not know how they're going to enforce the 15-mile-per-hour speed limit. As far as they have docents who have said that they would go out and sit by a trail and just try to talk to people. And at this point, that's the extent of the enforcement. So again, this is an issue that is a much larger deal than our local paths, but it is something that we're looking at and hoping to address in the most positive fashion possible because the enforcement end of it is something that requires a much bigger feasibility study and funding source.
Well, as one comment, the National Transportation Safety Board noted that fatalities associated with e-bikes ridership, e-bike ridership, have also increased exponentially. That's National Transportation Safety Board. This is a serious issue, and I understand lots of people are dealing with, I think the term is micro-mobility, to cover not just e-bikes, but all kinds of other devices out there. And unfortunately, the federal government is usually a little behind the curve, and so it's really up to the local municipalities, just like Washoe County here, to come up with something and give it a shot. So we need to come up with something. Thank you.
I'm open to suggestion.
Yeah, it is.
15-mile-an-hour speed limit. That's the first one.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that it's a very difficult issue. And as it was mentioned, the technology is advancing faster than particularly the federal government can keep up. But I think that probably really extends to just about all local governments that can generally react faster. And everything you said is accurate. I'll point out that it's not the bike, it's the rider. As you kind of mentioned, the people that are renting these without proper training or consideration for others. And that extends to so many other situations besides e-bikes. But that is a very difficult thing, and I think we'll probably see that in front of the commission or updated codes as we try to react to that expanding ownership. I just want to add, and I know that you're familiar with this, but kind of saying this for the benefit of county management staff. All of the current staff in parks, and particularly the Trails program, kind of has inherited decades of poor planning, design, and construction of trails in Washoe County. And I applaud your efforts to try to improve that and reduce the maintenance needs, which is something near and dear to my heart, that we shouldn't be continuing to plan, design, and build trails that require constant maintenance. Whites Creek has received FEMA money at least twice, to my knowledge, in the last 20 years. And we can't just keep putting Band-Aids on things, and we need to look at how do we reduce the maintenance for this. So I applaud your efforts in that. And I just want to mention that of the three major local government jurisdictions in this area, Washoe County is the only one with a trails program, and also the only one that is really working towards that effort of trying to bring our trail systems up to modern standards that require less maintenance and have a better consideration for the user experience and the usability of those trails. Washoe County should be proud of that, and I hope that sometime in my lifetime I'll see that uniform throughout the region.
Any further questions?
Just a minor comment. I absolutely agree with my fellow commissioners in regards to the safety, and that's something that's definitely something that's top of mind, and as well as the excitement for the programs that we have in place and what you envision and hope to carry out. But I think one of the things that have always bothered me is the lack of communication or the lack of advertisement of the trails that we have available. I mean, I know that we always recommend to people, I'm in the hospitality industry, to download all trails and try to figure it out from that. But I think it would be something great, especially as we have our own trails program and we have an effort into it, is a way to celebrate and advertise and display our trails and be able to let the public, both locals and tourists, know about the amazing trails that we have available. Do you have any plans for that?
So far in this first year, we've upgraded the website quite a bit. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at the web page that we have for the Trails program. When our trails now, we're currently updating all of our mapping and designing and developing an improved map for the public. There's an interactive map, NV Trail Finder, that's part of a more collaborative effort that we've all put together. I recently was interviewed on the podcast. and we did a special about the trail system for Washoe County. So slowly, yes, we are unveiling what we have coming. Working with the Truckee Meadows Trails program has been, I think, really good for Washoe County as we do these volunteer trail days. It's being advertised through their networks as well that this is a partnership, that it's Washoe County, the Biggest Little Trail Stewardship, and Truckee Meadows Trails out doing trails together. So, they reach hundreds or thousands of individuals monthly, letting them know that we're part of this. But as far as advertising what we have available, that's probably something we can work towards.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And we do have a Washoe County Trails Guide that, I don't know if the commission wants to augment budget to have that updated. I believe it was published in 2005 or 6.
I could definitely use a little.
That being said, it was out of date probably by the time it was printed. And in this day and age, it is a very nice guide. It has a lot of good information, but I think most people get their data from electronic sources that are easier to edit. And since you did mention All Trails, I just want to point out that generally land managers don't recommend All Trails for users because that's user-created data and it doesn't generally take into account sensitive resources, private property, actually official trails. So what Christina mentioned, the nvtrailfinder.org.com?
I think
it's .org. Is the only online GIS-based trail app in our area that actually has trails like vetted by the land managers.
And I've actually attained administrator licensing through some of the apps most recently so that I can take off trails on some of the more common apps like All Trails or Trail Fork so that I can remove the trails that are being uploaded. But that it's a very timely endeavor because people are out mapping their ride or their hike every day and they upload it. And so that's something that we don't necessarily want to point folks to at this point. Once I think we rein in this Truckee Meadows Trails plan and we really dial in what we have and what's been updated to some of our more recent trail developments, we'll start advertising that a bit more.
Yeah, NV Trail Finder.
NV Trail Finder.
for your host business. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10, review.
Mr. Chair, can I interrupt for 1 moment, please?
Yes.
I just want to, for the record, County Commission Liaison Marlos Garcia showed up and joined the meeting at 2:28 p.m.
Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Garcia. Item number 10, review and possible recommendation to approve an update to the donation policy, including but not limited to language associated with material donations and plaques.
Thank you. For the record, Colleen Wallace-Barnum, Park Operations Superintendent. So as part of your packet, you received today a staff report in addition to a policy with some changed language that's highlighted. It's highlighted in yellow. So just to give you a background, we've had this donation policy in effect since 2009. Washoe County Regional Parks and Open Space wants to encourage our citizens to donate to parks. Often folks want to donate either monetarily or perhaps a material or property donation. Sometimes those property donations are a family heirloom that might be a tractor, that they had in their family that they want to donate to a park to have on display or things of that nature. Oftentimes they'll want to come to a park. Let's say they, enjoy Bowers Mansion Park and, they have a loved one who passes. They want to, donate something such as a tree or a bench, and then they want to have a dedication to that item at the park. So it's been one of these things that we've not really managed consistently. So The purpose of the change to the policy is really just to create a more consistent approach and manage the expectations both of the public and of the staff in accepting those donations. I think a few months ago, we came to you with an Arboretum donation policy that was approved. And the Arboretum is really going to be that area where a loved one can be recognized either on a plaque. It might be a plaque that's within a visitor center or a plaque that is on the object itself. But those are the areas that we want to direct folks that want to do some type of property donation, that they want to recognize that loved one on the donation itself, if you will. We all want to encourage park patrons. So, for example, a patron may come to the staff and say, hey, my family loved coming to this park. We'd love to plant a tree in honor of, my father that passed. And we will accept that donation. We just let the people know, hey, we just can't have that the plaque next to the tree, and there's really no place in the park to put a plaque. But as long as you and your family know that this tree is for, your family, we're happy to do it. And we move forward, and we have for many years, and we would love to continue doing that. That works really well. And the other goal behind this is that we don't want our parks to just become memorial sites because people love our parks, and we're thrilled and we're thankful for that. And we want to accept donations, but we also want to manage the expectation around the recognition of that. So really, if you look at the policy, the changes were fairly minor. It really just indicated that we wanted to basically accept donations, but the donation shall not include a plaque or dedication on the property itself. And that's stated in a variety of areas in the policy itself. So a few months ago, we actually had a public comment in regards to this issue itself, which really prompted us to want to do something about it. And so I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today and just really kind of clean up that policy that we have for accepting donations. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Kind of the first thing that came to mind is, the examples included in here, like Wilbur D. May Foundation, the Robert Z. Hawkins Amphitheater. Is there, and I apologize because I haven't read this entire thing before the meeting, is there like a little bit of leeway or exception for you in there if we end up with like a large bequest or donation from like a local foundation or something that like wants to give a park or a building or something, and there would be an interest in naming that building after them?
Yeah, we have a policy on naming, so there's a specific facility naming policy that we had come a few years before the Park Commission in regards to a field, and we had to look back, and in the 80s, in fact, it was dedicated to this family member, so we wound up putting up the sign. But yes, we have a different policy for that. And then just so you're aware, the May Foundation, so we have a few they're basically donation accounts specific to that facility. So the May Foundation has one specific area, that the Arboretum, and then also the Robert Z. Hawkins Amphitheater. So if in fact we move forward at some point in the future with a large donor that wanted to donate a specific area, we could work towards that in the donation policy or have a specific account set up just for that facility.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
So with the policy effective date being September 28th, tomorrow, that means that any current plaques that may be dedicated anywhere, they're just going to be grandfathered in, or
Correct.
They won't be removed, correct?
Correct. So you'll go through our parks and you'll see a variety of locations where we have a bench in honor of someone, and we're not planning to remove any of those. We would just not add any to that.
And you currently do not maintain any of those, like if a plaque gets ripped off of a bench or something with vandalism, that's it.
Correct. So we would typically have the contact information because we have a property donation form. So we have some paperwork associated with it, and we would contact the family and maybe reach out to them to see if they wanted to replace that. But even the cost of that previous plaque or bench would be borne from the donor itself. Mm-hmm. We don't have a replacement program for any of that. So
just to reconfirm with the question, it's if if something already had a dedication to it and it were to be removed or vandalized, you will allow the replacement of it. We're just not looking for any additions to plaques, but we're allowed for a replacement of a plaque?
That's a great question. I would probably approach that a little differently in the future if we did have some of these plaques that got destroyed. And that's the other reason for the change in the policy, is that a lot of times we do have those types of things, for whatever reason. We have destruction, property destruction in our parks, and we don't want to encourage that with any of our plaques. So not having the plaque, in theory, would hopefully create an opportunity to not want to take that. So I would probably have a conversation with the family about that and manage that expectation. And that would be another good reason for the change in the policy, so that they know that, we now have this policy in effect.
Any other discussion or questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve. I think there is a motion written. Possible motion on the back page.
I'll make the motion to approve the updates to the donation policy to be effective September 28th, 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Day, second that.
And is there any public comment or comment among commissioners of the motion on the floor?
No public comment in chambers or in Zoom.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Colleen. Number 11, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to approve an agreement between Washoe County and Reno Disc Golf Association for the maintenance of the disc golf courses within Washoe County Parks, Rancho San Rafael Regional Park, Sun Valley Regional Park, and South Valleys Regional Park, in exchange for Washoe County waiving fees associated with up to 6 disc golf events per year for the term of 5 years commencing November 14th, 2023.
Okay, for the record, Colleen Wallace-Barnum, Park Operations Superintendent. We didn't have enough time to get Reno Disc Golf Association their review of the draft agreement, so we are going to push this back until our November meeting.
Okay, that was simple. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Item number 12, Parks Reports.
Okay. Just wanted to highlight a few projects and programs that we've been working on. So we have the Robert C. Hawkins Amphitheater during the month of August is typically the Sierra Nevada School for Performing Arts does almost a month-long reservation out there, and they did the Addams Family this year. If you haven't been to any of those programs, they really do a wonderful job. So, and they have, I would say, probably 6 to 8 different public shows that they do. They do a lot of rehearsals and then do the show nights. So please come out if you haven't seen them. I wanted to mention that we hosted, several of our parks got some love on September, let's see, it wasn't September 23rd, I believe it was September 16th. We had the Truckee River Cleanup. Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful organizes that, and we had several of our parks that, like I said, Crystal Peak, Mayberry, DeRoscar, and Ambrose along the Truckee River got some great, some work done and great work accomplished. We've done several ranger hikes. If you haven't had an opportunity to go out to any of those, I'd encourage you to do some of those. Upcoming in the South region, we have Bowers Mansion. We'll have a Living History Day on Saturday, October 21st. And that day, on those Living History Days, the mansion is open for tours, and it's not really a guided tour. It's really just an open house, which is a great opportunity to go into the mansion. Park Ranger Andy Brown, who got his 20-year certificate, will be leading some fall photo hikes. And then we'll also have some junior ranger. They rolled out a junior ranger program just a few weeks ago, so they'll be doing some programming around that, which is a great opportunity for kids. And those can be done virtually as well as in person, so there's an opportunity both ways. Let's see, what else do I have? A few more events. Of course, we had the Great Reno Balloon Races that took place. What a lovely weekend that was. And I believe Commissioner Garcia got to have a balloon ride, which is really cool. I'm going to get one next year. But we have, had great weather and tens of thousands of citizens that come out for that free event. So that's just really well done each year. So congratulations to Pete and his crew. and a few other things. The Meet the Turkeys program will be in November. So we do a program out at Rancho San Rafael Park where there's typically turkeys, and the turkeys meet the citizens of Washoe County, and it's a fun event for all. It's a great fall event. I also wanted to mention, you should have all received via snail mail the May Foundation annual report that we do each year. So we will have a meeting with them at the end of October, which happens every year. I did want to highlight that we got our final numbers, and over 90,000 people, again, attended Dragon Lights Reno, which is pretty impressive for a 5-week period. That is more than we receive annually in visitation in just 5 weeks. So it's a pretty strong event for this community. So we're thankful for that. And I think that's all I had. I just wanted to highlight a few things. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you need extra turkeys for the Meet the Turkeys?
Possibly. We'll talk later.
Okay.
I do want to.
Last I checked, I think there was only one left out at Rancho. So Meet the Turkey.
We reach out to some local ranchers that let us, they loan their turkeys.
Oh, perfect.
Meet the lone turkeys. I want to applaud you and your team for the ribbon cuttings that took place for the new fitness courses or fitness courts that opened up over in Rancho as well as South Valleys. It was a wonderful day, wonderful event, and it's really exciting to see those. My kiddos worked out this past weekend, so it was really fun to have that there. So I just wanted to applaud, of course, the parks and Renown, and thank them for their support as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Aranda. So Commissioner Aranda was there, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Newman, and Commissioner Garcia. So it was well supported by many of our commissioners. So it was a great event, and thank you for reminding me. That was one thing I wanted to mention. So yes, it was a successful event for both facilities.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Colleen.
Thank you.
Item number 13, Director's Report.
Good afternoon. For the record, Dave Solaro, Assistant County Manager. Now that we've talked about the fitness courts, don't have to talk about that. Believe it or not, nothing occurred at the Board of County Commissioners meeting since the last time we met, so there's nothing to report there. However, we do have an exciting little video for you. Commissioner Garcia, I don't know if you want to preface this video or whether we just want to let it roll, but okay, well, I'll jump in a little bit here. So Commissioner Garcia utilized some of her district discretionary funds at the Board of County Commissioner level to work with Sierra Nevada Journeys and our communications team to create a little project that helped out some of our citizens in Sun Valley, and this is the a little video that shows exactly what occurred. It took place at the Sun Valley Regional Park, which is a really cool park. If you have not been there, just really take some time, head on up there. But with that, Brandon, if we can go ahead and roll the video.
See if we get some sound here.
Commissioner Garcia, we might need you to dub video or dub sound it.
Oh my God. I don't know if the sound will play over YouTube with our system or not. I have all the volumes on, so.
Okay.
No, YouTube's on, all the sound's on for everywhere.
Well, we will certainly send this video a link to all of you.
And I'll just chime in while you can see the footage. This project was an idea. The CEO of Sierra Nevada Journeys and I got together, and we were trying to find a way to encourage our youngest constituents to access and experience our wonderful regional parks. And what we decided is that we had this incredible park right behind Esther Bennett Elementary School in Sun Valley. And I had already kind of visited and reached out to the other Sun Valley elementary schools. And so we were able to partner with two of the schools. And at the end of this project, 400 Sun Valley students will have accessed and hiked and explored this beautiful park, and it's been wonderful. We have I think one or two more field trips out there, and I'll invite you all to come check it out. But this is just, to me, really important that we help our youngest constituents learn how to be good stewards of the land. Because what they do is they go home and they tell their parents and their siblings and their family members, and we're just not only improving overall wellness for our community, but helping our community realize, like, this is one of the reasons why people love to visit Reno and Sparks, and why we love to live in this region, and we need to invest in things like our trail systems and our parks. So just a huge shout out to the amazing staff at Sierra Nevada Journeys and to the commission support staff who helped organize this. It's really fulfilling to hear the kids laughing and playing and really feeling, in just a matter of minutes, more comfortable in these spaces, and I think that's really critical.
Just a comment here, this is great, and really neat that it's been promoted like that. Thank you. This is where we teach people respect for the park and respect for other people using the park. And we got to get them young, because once they're 25 on an e-bike, it's all lost. But this is really neat. Thank you for this.
Commissioner Garcia, did you happen to, or did Sierra Nevada Journeys poll how many of those kids from Esther Bennett had never been to the park next door?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I was very curious about that myself, and so at every opening circle, I would informally poll them, and I asked them two things. Have you ever been in this park before? And have you ever gone on a hike before? And it was incredible how many students had not ever done either of those two things. And so the staff at Sierra Nevada Journeys saw that, and they were kind of alarmed, actually. And so we were going to go back and take a more formal poll with the classroom teachers. So they're in the process of collecting that data. But once I have that information, I was planning on bringing that to the commission, because this is a little window into what we're facing here. And if we have a growing, diverse community who doesn't know where to go, how to use these spaces, and feel comfortable using these spaces, then I think we're missing a mark here. And so that's what I really wanted to bring to this commission.
Yeah, thank you. I know, at least they have the access to the park adjacent to the school, but we have a lot of similarly socioeconomic schools in town that don't have that adjacent access. And I think that that's often missed, is that when you don't have access to that, you never get the opportunity to, for example, load your bike in the car and drive out to a trailhead. That's just not something that is accessible to them. So I think we need more parks adjacent to elementary schools throughout the region.
All right, thank you very much for that, and I do agree. I think we do. We do a pretty good job in some of the unincorporated areas of having parks adjacent to schools, but they're not all trailheads, or they've got different experiences. So we do try to get that piece out there, and I know when we're planning with subdivisions, we try to get those things as well. So, Commissioner Joel, I really appreciate your stewardship with our in discussion earlier on the trails piece, because that's one of the things we found when we did the master plan update was the connection to trails and the want for connection to that open space. And it was identified that we do a poor job as a region, or we had been, and that's the reason Washoe County went ahead and got the trails coordinator position. And I think it's a step in the right direction. I think the other agencies are following behind. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, we're probably a few years too late, but we'll catch up. We'll get there. So with that, that is my report, and here for any questions you may have.
Cool. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Slero?
All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Item number 14, Commissioner requests for future agenda items. No discussion may occur on these items. Hearing none? Oh, one?
One item, and I don't know if anything's how far it's gotten, but we had a number of meetings on a parks district and kind of went quiet. Don't know where that is, if it's gone to the county commission, if it's still within the parks department, but just a status report on that agenda item from the past.
Is that, you got that, Colleen? Or for next? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner requests? Thank you. Item number 15, public comments.
I have no public comment either in Zoom or in chambers, and I can play it with sound, I believe, if you would like to redo it. It's up to you, but I figured it out.
I don't think we need to. So, oh, the video with sound.
The video, yeah.
Do we want to replay the video?
Okay.
You'll send us the links.
Yeah.
All right. No public comments. The meeting is adjourned.